that in a world where you can be anything, be kind. It's a quote we've all heard, but how often do we see it put into practice, especially by those in the public eye? Today, we're going to explore a story that brings this simple yet powerful message to life in the most unexpected way. When Melania Trump heard a child crying in a store, she could have easily ignored it, like most of us do. Instead, what unfolded next became a testament to the transformative power of kindness. Buckle up, because this story of compassion, celebrity, and human connection is about to challenge everything you thought you knew about the impact of our everyday choices. The bustling store fell silent as a child's wail pierced the air. Heads turned, searching for the source of the commotion. In the produce section, a young mother struggled to console her toddler, who was red-faced and inconsolable. The woman's embarrassment was palpable as she tried to juggle her groceries and soothe her child. Amidst the chaos, a figure in oversized sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat paused. It was Melania Trump, attempting to shop incognito. For a moment, she stood frozen, her eyes fixed on the scene unfolding before her. The crowd held its breath, expecting the former First Lady to hurry away from the disturbance, but Melania surprised them all. She took a step towards the mother and child, her designer shoes clicking on the tile. The sound seemed to echo in the suddenly hushed store. As she approached, the mother's eyes widened with recognition, a mix of surprise and uncertainty crossing her face. Melania knelt beside the child, her voice soft and soothing. "Hello, little one," she said gently, her accent lilting. "What's troubling you today?" The child's cries began to subside, curiosity replacing distress as he regarded the stranger speaking to him. The mother, still stunned, fumbled with her words. "I'm so sorry," she began, but Melania waved away her apology with a warm smile. "No need to apologize," she said. "We all have difficult moments." As Melania engaged with the child, showing him a shiny apple from a nearby display, whispers spread through the aisles. Customers pretended to shop while stealing glances at the unexpected scene. A cashier, her hands shaking slightly, fumbled with her phone, torn between capturing the moment and respecting the privacy of those involved. The child's tears had stopped completely now, replaced by a shy smile as Melania spoke to him in hushed tones. The mother's tension visibly eased, her shoulders relaxing as she watched the interaction. It was a moment of genuine human connection, transcending the barriers of fame and status. What had prompted this unexpected act of kindness? As onlookers watched, they couldn't help but wonder about the woman behind the public persona. Was this a carefully orchestrated PR move, or a glimpse of the real Melania Trump? The truth, as it often is, was more complex than any simple explanation. As the store buzzed with anticipation, Melania Trump knelt beside the distraught child, phones raised, ready to capture what many expected to be a perfectly staged photo opportunity. But as the former First Lady's attention remained fixed on the tearful boy and his overwhelmed mother, the atmosphere shifted palpably. Melania's hand dipped into her designer purse, and onlookers held their breath. Instead of a grand gesture, she retrieved a simple white tissue. With gentle movements, she dabbed at the child's damp cheeks, her touch as soft as her words. The mother's rigid posture began to soften, shoulders visibly relaxing as she watched this unexpected scene unfold. Melania's focus never wavered, her eyes locked on the child's face as she spoke in soothing tones. Her accent, often scrutinized, now seemed to captivate the boy, its lilting cadence drawing him out of his distress. A nearby teenager lowered his phone, the artificial glow fading as he witnessed a genuine interaction that contrasted sharply with the polished, distant figure he'd seen in the media. Melania leaned in close to the mother, her words too quiet for others to hear. Whatever she said resonated deeply, as the woman's eyes glistened with unshed tears. For a moment, they were just two mothers, sharing a universal understanding that transcended their vastly different lives. The child's sobs gave way to occasional hiccups, his tear-stained face now adorned with a shy smile. He gazed up at Melania with a mix of wonder and gratitude. As the tension dissipated, replaced by a warm sense of shared humanity, Sarah, a store employee, approached. Her eyes were wide with curiosity and wonder. She had witnessed countless celebrity sightings in this upscale store, but never one quite like this. A moment of genuine compassion that transcended fame and status. Sarah watched intently as Melania leaned closer to the mother, her voice dropping to a whisper. The former First Lady's carefully crafted public image seemed to slip away, revealing a vulnerability that caught Sarah off guard. For a moment, the bustling store faded into the background, and an intimate bubble formed around the two women. Melania hesitated, her perfectly manicured hands fidgeting with the strap of her designer purse. Then, with a deep breath, she began to speak. Her words, though inaudible to those around them, carried a weight that was palpable. The mother's eyes widened, her expression shifting from surprise to a dawning understanding. As Melania continued, her usual poise gave way to genuine emotion. Her hands moved expressively, punctuating her words with a raw honesty that seemed foreign on her typically composed features. The mother nodded, tears welling in her eyes as she listened intently. The child, now calm and nestled in his mother's arms, looked between the two women with curiosity. His small hand reached out, touching Melania's arm as if sensing the importance of the moment. Melania's smile in response was warm and unguarded, a far cry from the polished grin she often wore in public appearances. A nearby customer, pretending to examine a display of organic apples, strained to hear the conversation. His eyebrows rose in surprise at the unexpected scene unfolding before him. The vulnerability on display was a stark contrast to the carefully curated image of the Trump family that dominated headlines. As their conversation continued, both women seemed to forget their surroundings entirely. The mother's shoulders, which had been tense with stress, began to relax. Melania's own posture softened, the rigid perfection of her public persona melting away in the face of this shared moment. Sarah found herself wondering what personal struggles Melania could be sharing. What hidden depths lay beneath the polished exterior of this woman who had lived such a public life. The intimacy of the moment was almost uncomfortable to witness, yet Sarah couldn't look away. As their conversation drew to a close, both women stood straighter. There was a new strength visible in their postures, a shared understanding that seemed to have forged an unlikely bond. The mother wiped away a tear, her smile genuine and grateful. Melania squeezed her hand, the gesture speaking volumes in its simplicity. The store manager approached, his brow furrowed with concern. He'd been observing the unusual scene from afar, torn between his duty to maintain order and his curiosity about the unexpected interaction. As he drew closer, he steeled himself for what he assumed would be a terse dismissal from the former First Lady. "Is everything all right here?" he asked, his voice a mix of authority and apprehension. "Can I be of any assistance?" Melania turned to face him, her eyes bright with an intensity that caught him off guard. Instead of the cold rebuff he'd anticipated, she spoke with a warmth that seemed to spread through the air around them. "Yes, actually," she said, her accent lilting gently. "I believe we could use your help." The manager blinked, surprised by her inclusive "we." Melania gestured toward the mother's half-filled shopping cart, which sat abandoned a few feet away. "This family could use some support," Melania continued, her voice low but firm. "Perhaps we could arrange for these groceries to be complimentary today." The manager's eyebrows rose, but as he looked from Melania to the tired face of the young mother, a small smile began to form. He nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. "Of course," he said. "I'll take care of it personally." As the manager stepped away to arrange the details, other employees began to gather, whispering amongst themselves. The energy in the store was shifting, curiosity and excitement replacing the earlier tension. Melania, sensing the change, turned her attention to the small crowd forming around them. One by one, she spoke to each employee, her words too soft for others to hear. But the effect was visible. Eyes widened, postures straightened, and faces lit up with purpose. Soon, a flurry of activity surrounded the mother and child. A young cashier appeared with a fresh bouquet of flowers, presenting them to the mother with a shy smile. The produce manager arrived, arms laden with an assortment of fresh fruits and vegetables, which he added to the cart with a friendly wink. From the bakery came warm, fragrant loaves of bread, and the deli counter sent over a selection of prepared meals. As word spread through the store, other customers began to take notice. An elderly woman approached, reaching into her purse to produce a small, hand-knitted baby blanket. "I was going to donate this," she said, her voice quavering, "but I think it belongs here." A businessman in a crisp suit stepped forward, quietly handing the manager his credit card. "I'd like to contribute to the next few customers who might need a little help," he said, his eyes never leaving the scene before him. The ripple of compassion continued to spread, touching everyone in its path. What had begun as a simple act of kindness from Melania had transformed into a community-wide demonstration of support and generosity. The elderly man's gesture sparked a ripple of kindness that spread through the store. As he offered his spot to the mother and child, other customers took notice, their eyes softening with empathy. The usual rush began to transform, as if someone had turned down the volume on life's frantic pace. A teenager noticed an older woman struggling to reach a high shelf. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, grabbing the item she needed. The woman's face lit up with gratitude, her hand patting the boy's arm in thanks. Nearby, two strangers struck up a conversation over produce. Their laughter mingled with the rustle of vegetables, creating a melody of human connection. What started as a comment about avocados blossomed into a shared moment of joy. At the checkout lines, the transformation was apparent. Customers began insisting others go ahead of them. "Please, you only have a few items," one man said, gesturing for a young mother to move in front. She smiled, grateful for the kindness that would get her home to her children earlier. The atmosphere shifted, becoming warmer and more connected. Employees who had been mechanically restocking shelves now moved with purpose, offering genuine smiles to each customer they encountered. From a distance, Melania watched the scene unfold, a quiet satisfaction in her eyes. Her initial act of compassion had set off a chain reaction, proving that kindness was indeed contagious. The immediate impact was clear. Strangers were connecting, smiles were being exchanged, and the cold efficiency of a typical shopping trip had been replaced by something far more meaningful. As the ripple effect continued, a customer pulled out their phone. Instead of scrolling mindlessly, they began to type furiously, documenting the extraordinary scene. The story of this unexpected outbreak of kindness was about to reach far beyond the walls of the store. The shaky video, captured in the heat of the moment, held a raw authenticity that captivated thousands. Within minutes of its upload to Twitter, the footage spread like wildfire, gaining traction with every share and retweet. The hashtag #Melania moment emerged organically, trending within hours as users shared their reactions. Social media buzzed with activity as people from all walks of life weighed in. Some praised Melania's kindness, calling it a breath of fresh air in today's political climate. Others questioned her motives, speculating about potential PR stunts. The diversity of opinions reflected the complex nature of celebrity interactions and the public's often conflicting perceptions of public figures. Media outlets pounced on the trending topic. Journalists scrambled to verify the video's authenticity, reaching out to eyewitnesses and store employees. A local news station tracked down the mother from the store. In a heartfelt interview, she recounted her experience, her voice trembling with emotion. "I never thought someone like her would take the time to help someone like me," she confessed. Amidst the growing media frenzy, Melania's team maintained a conspicuous silence. This lack of official comment only fueled further speculation and interest. The absence of a carefully crafted press release allowed the raw, unfiltered nature of the original interaction to remain at the forefront of public consciousness. The story began to transcend political lines. In an era of deep division, this simple act of human connection seemed to touch something universal. Commentators from across the political spectrum found common ground in discussing the importance of compassion and the impact of small gestures. For a moment, the focus shifted from partisan rhetoric to a shared appreciation for basic human kindness. As the story continued to unfold, social media influencers began sharing their own acts of kindness, inspired by the #Melania moment. What started as a single interaction in a grocery store had sparked a movement, encouraging people to look for opportunities to make a difference in their own communities. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the city streets, a woman stood before a nondescript community center. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her collar, a nervous habit she'd developed over years of struggling to make ends meet. Inside, a new support group for parents facing financial hardships was about to begin its first session. The woman, Sarah, took a deep breath, her mind flashing back to the day that had led her here. Months earlier, in a crowded grocery store, Sarah had encountered an unexpected ally in her moment of desperation. Melania Trump, the former First Lady, had not only comforted Sarah's crying child, but had also discreetly arranged for ongoing support. It was a gesture that went far beyond the public eye, one that had slowly but surely changed the course of Sarah's life. Sarah's hand rested on the door handle, her resolve wavering. The memory of Melania's kindness flooded back, along with the realization of how far she'd come since that day. With a final deep breath, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. The room was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the chill of uncertainty that had plagued Sarah for so long. A circle of chairs occupied the center, and as Sarah entered, several faces turned to greet her. There was no judgment in their eyes, only a shared understanding that comes from walking similar paths. As the session began, stories flowed freely. Parents spoke of job losses, medical bills, and the constant struggle to provide for their children. Sarah listened, her heart aching with recognition. When it came her turn to speak, she found herself recounting the day in the store, her voice catching as she described the unexpected kindness that had set her on a new path. The room fell silent as Sarah shared how Melania had not only comforted her child, but had also arranged for a year's worth of groceries to be delivered to Sarah's home. It was a gesture that had allowed Sarah to focus on finding stable employment without the constant worry of feeding her family. But Melania's generosity hadn't stopped there. She had quietly connected Sarah with a local job training program, covering the costs and ensuring Sarah had childcare during her classes. As Sarah spoke, she realized the full impact of that day for the first time. It wasn't just about the immediate help. It was about the doors that had been opened, the hope that had been kindled. She looked around the room, seeing tears in the eyes of her fellow group members, feeling a sense of community she hadn't experienced in years. Miles away in a well-appointed office, Melania Trump sat at her desk, a stack of letters before her. Her fingers traced the edges of an envelope, a simple "thank you" scrawled across its front. As she opened it, a smile touched her lips, warmth filling her eyes as she read the words of gratitude penned by Sarah. The letter spoke of more than just thanks. It detailed how Sarah had completed her training, secured a steady job, and was now in a position to give back to her community. The support group she now attended was her way of paying forward the kindness she had received, creating a ripple effect that touched countless lives. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city, the ripples of Melania's simple act of kindness continued to spread. The store, once a place of hurried transactions and averted gazes, had become a sanctuary of compassion. Strangers exchanged smiles, shared stories, and offered helping hands without hesitation. The transformation was palpable, a living testament to the power of human connection. It wasn't about wealth or status. It was about seeing the humanity in each other. As news of the #1 Melania moment spread, people across the country were inspired to create their own ripples of kindness. In the quiet aftermath, one couldn't help but wonder, what unexpected chain of compassion might you set in motion today? The world waits, breath held, for your first step.